a lot of people are liars. So you have to be paying attention not to what someone says, but what they actually do. Okay. And on top of people being liars, there are a lot of manipulating narcissists out there also who will target you because they see that you are insecure and all they have to do is pat your back and give you a compliment, and then you will do anything that they want you to do. Or they'll give you a little bit of change and they'll have you diddy bopping all up and down the East and West Coast. And we see how that is ending up. The thing is, things that come hard are not necessarily easy, but they're typically worth having. And the thing is that when you are someone who is always talking about the things you have physically and in a material space, or what you have, period, then I start to immediately assume, okay, you're missing something in your life. You feel inadequate. Something's going on there. So if I was a manipulative, evil person, I would solicit that and I would just give you all the compliments that you wanted so that you could get so used to me complimenting you, so that the moment I decide to shift my behavior, you'll be like a little puppy trying to get my affections back because you don't have self-esteem because of whatever happened to you in the past. And don't get defensive when I'm saying that you don't have self-esteem. I'm not trying to say that you're out here, whatever, because you didn't get that way on your own. Likely whoever raised you was toxic. But it doesn't mean that it's not what it is. And the first way to heal and overcome is to acknowledge what is actually going on. And the body language speaks, the way you talk speaks, the way you walk speaks, the way you sit speaks, the way you stand. And if you sit like this, you look like a victim. And there are people who are looking for targets. And my mother always told me to out crazy that MFer. So not only should you just out crazy someone, because that's when it gets to the point where you're like, oh, really? You want to come over here? Do you know who you dealing with? I'm crazy, you better back up. But that's when it gets to that point. But you can avoid being some weirdo manipulator target as much as, you can put up a little bit of defense by just walking, always sitting up straight, always standing tall, and not revealing your cards. I used to be someone who was such an open book. I would just and say everything. And I also used to be someone who was so truthful. I just assumed I was projecting that since I'm telling the truth, you must be telling the truth. And I realized, first of all, that not everyone deserves to hear the truth, okay? Some people deserve to be lied to. I'm just going to be frank. Or they might not deserve to be lied to, but they don't deserve to know the full truth. And then other people are just freaking liars, and they will lie to you. And so much so that if they say it's raining, you have to go make sure that they're not putting a water hose on the window. One of my professors in college taught me that one. He was talking about his son. But anyway, there are people who just lie because they want something out of you. I have some family members who I can just pinpoint who would say to me when they would see, like, I was doing something, like, for example, you see I have these hoop earrings. I've always been a hoop girl, but it would tell me, like, oh my gosh, I hate hoop earrings. Those are so this and so that. And then I get on FaceTime and see his girl and she got on hoop earrings. And like, I'm not going to go into it because I don't want this fool calling me, but everything that this person said to me that was representing who I was naturally, that they despised, that they hated, that they come to find out that's their favorite thing because that's who they was with. But when it was me, it was a problem. But see, it wasn't that it was a problem. It's that they didn't like it and they wanted to try to bring me down and humble me so that they could control me because they thought that I was insecure. But come to find out, I'm crazier than that ever thought. And so now I've since cut that person off because I just don't even have time, because I learned the hard way that manipulative and low self-esteem individuals are dangerous to keep around. So I try to keep my distance from people like that. And I'm not saying like, oh, if you have an insecurity about X, Y, and Z, there's a difference between having insecurities about things and having such low self-esteem that you will do anything in your power to bring other people down to feel the way you feel about yourself, because their light and their confidence makes you feel uncomfortable and insignificant and subpar. There's a very, very big difference from that and someone who's just insecure about themselves. A malignant narcissist is someone to me that is so insecure that they feel like they have to control everything else around them because they really have no self-control, and they know what they're doing, they know what goes on in their minds, and they just assume that everyone is as sick, demented, and twisted as they are. And so then they go around looking for wounded birds that they can capture. They go around looking for animals that are beautiful and toys that they can display, but that they can keep in their gardens. It's kind of like Medusa, not the original story of Medusa, but the Medusa-esque type thing, where they have all of these beautiful statues of people who are paralyzed in their area, and they don't like people that don't follow the status quo, because everyone around this particular narcissist was if this particular person said jump, before they're even saying how high, they don't even care how high it is, they're jumping. And I'm standing there like, what the are we jumping for? I'm not jumping. This isn't gym class. What are you doing? I'm about to eat. What's happening here? But that angered them, because suddenly others start to think, well, she's not jumping, why do I have to jump? So, and it triggered, and then they just tried to do some crazy stuff, and so I had to cut that fool off, and I plan to keep it that way. But the point is that when you are always seeking validation from other people, you might be doing it from a space of lack because someone in your life did not give you the attention that you deserved. But you have to be careful, because if you're looking for attention in the wrong places, you could F up and stumble into a scorpion or a snake and end up getting poisoned and end up being like in some Medusa type stuff where you're a statue stuck. And you might be pretty, you might be beautiful, you might be decked out in all of these things, but you're not free. You are a prisoner in a gilded cage, much like we're finding out a lot of these celebrities are. Okay, I have to go teach my class. But all that to say, just focus on yourself, focus on healing, and don't just be out here thinking that because somebody said something, that that's actually how they feel. Well, I hope that person is okay. But with that being said, just be mindful, because there are vicious, horrible beings out here looking for people that they know have low self-esteem because of how you're presenting yourself. So even if you are someone who currently has low self-esteem, don't take this video as, oh, woe is me, because that is not the point of this. The point of this is to recognize, I didn't mean to swap that bug. The point of this is to recognize, okay, if this is a pattern that keeps happening in my life, instead of whining and getting in my feelings about it, let me figure out how to fix it. Because you know what's not going to fix it? Moaning and crying all day. That's not going to fix it. What's going to fix it is looking yourself in the mirror and having the courage and the capacity to know that you can get past this, because there's someone else who's been through worse that did it, and ain't nobody better than you. Period. I'm no better than you. Nobody is better than you. Okay? You can do this. You can persevere, but you need to get away from those narcissists. You need to focus on yourself. You need to do some inner development and growth, and then before you know it, you'll look at life and say, wow, look at my life is so much different. Because when those people are around you constantly, they are picking at everything, and it's only going to get worse. People do what you allow. And typically, and then literally just in general, the universe is in a universe of expansion and increase. So anything that you allow, accept, and tolerate into your experience, you will experience more of it. Just like if you plant a weed, if you don't cut that thing down from the root, it will come back. Just like with a cyst, if you don't get the whole sac out, it will come back. So you need to be mindful of who you're around. And if you want roses, be where the roses are being planted. If you want dandelions, be where the dandelions are being planted. But don't get upset when you realize that you allowed this dandelion weed in your garden. What you need to do is get active, remove it, and then plant something else in its place. Because you do have power here. You're not a victim. You're not, oh, woe is me. You can feel that way today, but after the end of today, you need to get it together, because the only person that's going to help you is you. And if you keep allowing someone to play Pinocchio with your emotions, then you are being a fool. Because at this point, to know better is to do better, and to do better is to know better. And until you do better, you really don't know any better. So it's okay to be a fool at some point. We're all fools in one way or another. But if you're tired of being a fool, do something about it. Work on yourself. Stand up for yourself. Get it together. And don't allow people to mistreat you just because you that's what they say goes. If you have to walk on eggshells around someone, perhaps you don't need to be around that person anymore. Period.